All right. Welcome to Clozer Cult Podcast. I am your host, Alma Merrill, and today we have my dear friend, Mr. Chris Martindale. Say what up, Chris.
What's happening?
So on Clozer Cult, as you know, we speak all things sales, entrepreneurship, self-help, life skills, training, investments, you name it, business in general. And I'm really excited to have Chris on the show. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Never got a clap for sitting.
Really?
Yeah,
dude.
Not on an interview, so a first.
It's good to have you on, man. Chris Martindale and I go way back. We go probably
2006,
2006, 2007, right in there. Yeah.
Realty executive days.
Yep. Back in the day. And we learned the craft of real estate about the same time, and prospecting, cold calls, for sale by owner calls, all that stuff,
all
right?
The fun stuff. Yeah, I think you were 1 year before me, if I remember right.
Probably.
Ish, like that.
Ish. Yeah. And I started down in the Orem office and was recruited by Rhodes, John Rhodes.
Great guy.
So great, man. I still, he and I, we have stayed really close, and we text each other and throw each other memes and stuff all the time. So
yeah, he's so funny. I actually should reach out to him. I haven't talked to him for a while, but he's amazing.
He's doing great, man. Yeah, remarried to this awesome lady, and they're just doing phenomenal. So, Chris Martindale is, like I said, dear friend of mine. He's created incredible businesses. He's created incredible investment portfolios, brokerages, all kinds of stuff that you've done, huh?
A little bit of everything in the real estate field, for sure.
One of the things that's so surprising to me about you is how daring you are in the marketplace. Like you'll just do whatever the fuck you can put your hands on, right?
Well, the thing is, if you don't take risks, the reward's very small, right? Like you have to take some risks, but most of mine are pretty calculated. But you never know, jumping into things. All you have is data and the mindset and the mindset of winning, right? Like that's it.
And you're a pretty meticulous guy, right? Like in business and with partnerships and stuff like that, you're real picky.
I've learned a lot of lessons over the years to be that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you have to be, right? Like but you can either fast track that with somebody that's done it or learn as you go. And I think most people do both. And I wish I would have done more learning before I jumped in, because there's things I would have changed, but that's part of the growth, right? Like you can't go back and change it, but it's helped me in the future.
And you're a big time example set. Like you set examples for people rather than talk, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I'm not very social media saying a whole lot, and which is good and bad. I think.
Right.
I think that I hold myself. That's that one thing where I do hold myself back. I think is I don't get out as much as I probably should, and talk about things. At least that's what my wife says.
Well, when you guys do it, when you and your wife put out videos and stuff like that, dude, that's some quality stuff.
Thanks.
Like it looks really good, and you guys present yourselves really well. And I think you're super authentic, and I think that's why people respond to you. So,
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man.
It's fun to watch. It really is fun to watch. Now tell me about how you got into freaking real estate, dude. Why did you choose it? And where are you at right now, by the way? You're at Real, right?
Yep.
So, which I just joined as well, which is cool.
It's awesome.
Love the system with Real. But tell me, where did you start? How did you go, all right, dude, I'm going to do sales instead of because you're highly intelligent. Like, why not computer programming or some shit?
Yeah. So that's not my thing at all, to be honest. Like, so I actually got my license. My mom actually pushed me into it in California. I took a class. I was going to college out there first year.
Where were you going to college at in California?
A community college called Solano Community College.
Solano?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just got out of high school. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working for a window company, installing windows and mirrors and shower glass doors, things like that.
Really?
It's really the only other job I've had.
Do you know who Greg Haddock is?
Know the name, yeah.
So he was over at our previous brokerage.
Yep.
He used to do that too in California,
really?
Install windows and mirrors and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So that's what I was doing. Right. And I thought I was going to get into real estate to buy properties and fix and flip back then. Like that's, I like working with my hands. I like doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
what year was this?
This was 2004 when I took that class.
Okay.
Probably. And then I came back to go to U.
Uh-huh.
My best friend talked me into come back to Utah. I missed the sign up, but I'm like, screw it, I'm going anyways. I'm just gonna go live with them at the college. Like, it's totally cool. They have extra room in their house. I'm out. So I just packed up my stuff and left one day.
Right.
And I had nothing to do. And so I took the class in California, the school, and I was like, that's intriguing. I have nothing to do, and I don't want to say I'm not in school.
Right.
So I might as well just do real estate school here.
Right.
And just do it on the side. So I kind of did it just to be at the college and be hanging out and tell people I was in school.
Yes.
Right. I didn't want to be like, I just live in the house on the couch, like,
right.
So that's actually why I got it. And, the crazy thing is I didn't flip a house for like 7 or 8 years. Okay. And that was the goal. Like, I'd never thought of just sales, but I just happened to go to an office and get called by somebody and signed up with them. And it was the first office. I didn't interview anybody else.
What office was that? Realty Executives?
Right. Randy Hawley was his name, I believe.
Okay.
He was the recruiter. I went and met with him. He's like, here's what we do. And I'm like, it sounds good. I don't know any better. I'm going to Europe, though, for a couple months. So I'm going to go pass my license on the 5th, and then I'm gone until I think it was September, October. I had a trip to Hawaii, Vegas, Guatemala, and Europe.
You did your sow your oats trip?
Yeah, like, hey, I'm going to have to get a career here. I'm going to go have fun this summer. So me and my best friend, Mike, went and did that. And luckily I passed the test the first time, because I didn't have any room for error. It was like either do it then or wait till I got back. So passed it.
I passed the test the first time too, I'll have you know, even though I never had any formal education.
Yeah, mine wasn't great either. But as far as that goes, like, so yeah, I got my real estate license. I just got lucky that I went to an office that taught prospecting. Like, I showed up at a morning meeting.
It was like their like primary focus was prospecting.
Exactly.
Which was so helpful, dude.
Yeah. I remember walking in and they're like, be here at 8:00. I'm like, okay, cool. What's that? We do a meeting. So I thought it was like a mandatory thing. I'm like, cool, I'll be there. And I walk in, they start chanting things off the paper, affirmations. And I just remember going like, what the hell did I sign up for? Like, I had never been exposed to something like this. And they're in there like yelling, dancing around, clapping, doing affirmations. And then after we get done with that, they're like, okay, now write 10 things you're grateful for.
They're
on this
getting
paper.
in peak state.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like first day I do that. I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And then they go, okay, now we got to practice a script. And it happened to be a for sale by owner script. That's what they were working on that day.
Wow.
Like, they're going around the room. They're like, okay, it's your turn. I'm like, I probably just froze. I don't remember. Like, that's how crazy it was. And then after that, I just remember they're like, okay, now, and I'm like, okay, the meeting's done. What do I do now? Like, I just figured they'd tell you to go do something. I had no clue.
Right.
They hand me, what was it? A land voice list of for sale by owners.
I remember Land Voice, the lead source.
Yeah. So it was like a printed list. They're like, just call these people and tell them you want to help sell their house. And I'm like, okay, like how many I call? Just this list? And like, yeah. So I just called all day. Like, I just thought everybody did that.
That's just what you do.
Like that's what they told me. So I had no exposure to anything different. Well, like an hour and a half in, everybody's gone.
Right.
I'm at the cubicles, like calling, like, and I still have a lot of the list to get through. I'm
Girl,
like,
I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah. And I thought everybody had like a list and I was just slow.
Right.
So I called through the whole list they gave me and I didn't get anything that day, but I got a lot of no's and learned. And the next day I was able to go to that meeting and say, hey, why is everybody telling me this?
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, this is how you have to handle those objections. Da, da, da. So that's kind of how I started. First day calling FSBOs.
Being totally naive to the process, right?
Exactly.
Which I think is so freaking helpful. If you can be as naive as possible when you go into the process and just do those basics, you'll learn more in 10 days than you will in 10 years if you do that.
Getting into the market at that time too, I was young. I had no expenses. I had nothing really. Like, my overhead was so low.
How old were you at that point?
I got my license when I was 20.
20, okay.
Yeah, or no, 21. I was 21.
21, okay.
Yep, and I was turning 22 in like 8 days. So just in the verge there. So kind of crazy. But I just got so fortunate I was around the right people. And I always go back to that. Like, what if I went to a brokerage that didn't have that? I would, through the crash, I'd been gone for sure. Like, there would have been no
for
chance.
sure. Because you started just like I did in the down market. Everything was starting to crash. Everything was going away.
Yep, just getting ready to
Yeah,
crash.
kind of like what's happening right now a little bit. I
Definitely
don't see the crash. I see a shift, but but as far as things stopping and you having to get back to the basics, how important is that going to be?
Yeah, I think the basics is going to be where it's at, especially if you're new. You don't have a big database, but even if you do have a database, it ebb and flows. Like if you sold them a house at 2.5% interest
Right.
2 years ago, chances of them wanting to upgrade and double their payment right now for a bigger backyard or one more bedroom is
Right.
going to be pretty slim.
Pretty slim.
So I think if you want to make it through, like what we're going to go through is you have to get back to the basics. You have to reach out to people. You got to get in front of more people one way or another. I'm not saying you have to call FSBOs, but I'm saying you have to get in front of people somehow.
Right.
And consistently. It can't just be like once a week I do something.
Right.
No, it's a 5-day-a-week type market minimum.
And everybody tries to avoid the expireds or the sell by owners or just listed, just sold calls. The funny thing is that you can take somebody just like you or I, fresh, never, or I shouldn't say you or I, but anybody who's getting into real estate, I should say, and you can go drop them in the middle of nowhere. And as long as they know for sell by owners or expireds or how to cold call people on the phone, they'll make it, right?
Oh yeah.
You could parachute into any town and make it.
And nowadays it's even easier because if you have money, you can buy leads. Back then, buying leads was buying a list of phone numbers.
Right.
Like that people that didn't want to talk to you.
Right.
Now you can buy leads where they're inquiring to go see a property. That takes a lot of money.
Right.
But we didn't have that. There was no Zillow back then.
There was no option for
yeah,
that
we
at
had
that
no
point.
option. There
Yeah,
was the
exactly.
people you knew. I went to a brokerage that said open houses were terrible.
Right.
So I didn't ever do an open house, which was fine. And then it was FSBOs expireds and just calling neighborhoods.
Right.
That was the options.
Now, why would at any time, because I believe that some markets are good for open houses, some are bad. Why would you think that a brokerage would say open houses aren't good? Or why did they in that market?
I just think that they thought being on the phone, you could talk to more people. And the advertisement back then, I don't think was as good either. Like you weren't finding them online. So somebody actually had to drive by usually, or you put it in the paper.
Right.
Or
in the real estate book.
The book, the old magazine too, that you can advertise in. I remember that.
Yeah. And I remember as crappy as whenever the market got really crappy, that book got really thick. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then when it started tearing up, that book got really thin
yeah,
because
it's
people
gone.
didn't have to pay for the marketing.
Exactly. So it's just such a different market. We're so fortunate today, right? With the technology we have, being able to leverage way more. And, but you still have to use the key principles, even if you do those things. Because if you get a lead and you have no idea what to say to them, even if you bought it from Zillow, like it's still, you're throwing money out the window.
Guys,
so
this
you got to get basics.
This is gold, man. And this is coming from a guy who has lived and breathed in real estate and died by whatever he produced. And so, or lived by whatever he produced. But this is critical stuff. This is gold if you're in real estate or you want to get into real estate, which a lot of people still do. It blows my mind because the market's changing so much, but it's smart. So tell me about, you said you have to have certain like principles, right? So what are those principles that you have to have in order to survive in any market?
And I mean, in the last couple of years, you really didn't have to have much to make enough money to survive.
Right.
That's changed the last 4 months.
If you could talk
And
to
now-
anybody, you would survive in that market.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a pulse and you could show up and answer your phone, you were fine.
Right.
Even agents, a lot of agents can't do that, but they still sold houses somehow.
Right.
But now it's a
It's
whole
true.
different. Like if you're a seller in today's market, they want to know that you can get the home sold when all their neighbors are sitting on it,
Or sitting
right?
on the market.
So it's changed. Before, like everybody knew you could sell the home. It all just came down to what are you going to charge me? Now it's like, hey, what are you going to do to actually sell my home? Because I see this one sitting, and it actually takes skill set.
Right. Do you actually have a strategy to cause it to sell rather than just sit on the MLS?
And I think I'm guilty of it. Like I'd walk into a listing and to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Boom, boom, boom. Like
I'll bleep that out so your clients don't hear that.
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just saying, like, I didn't show up to a listing appointment as prepared in the last couple of years as I do today.
Oh, for
right?
sure. For
Like,
sure.
It wasn't as valuable, and they didn't ask questions about their neighbor's house. They didn't care. Besides, they heard they sold 50 grand over what they're asking. So everybody was excited.
Yeah,
Now
you could give
it's-
two shits. Everybody knew it was going to sell. It's just a matter of how or how much more you could get out of it.
And the crazy thing is there's still a lot of strategy in that market. So a lot of people left money on the table. They just didn't realize it.
Mhm.
Now we're in a different market. So they're going to look at stats, statistics, your experience, your track record, or who you work with as a team. That's why I think new agents should be on a team no matter what. Should be required, in my opinion,
Right.
because they can leverage that team lead's experience, and
Either-
track record.
Either put agents on a team or make them be in a team or in a real estate environment being taught for like another 120 to 150 hours, right? Something
Yeah.
like that.
On the drive here, I was talking to a guy that's in school that was doing a state test prep and he called me like, hey, do you do limited agency? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course I do. Like that client hired me to sell the house. Why would I not sell the house?
Right. And
like,
why would I not make more money on it?
Well, and it's just funny because you get these things like, well, I heard at real estate school that that's not good. I'm like, why? Like, if you don't have integrity, yeah, maybe it's bad. But I think the seller hired me to sell their house and bring them a buyer.
Right.
I'm going to do everything I can to do that. Right.
Right.
And so I think it's a great thing. But, you know, the real estate school, like they get out, they don't even know how to fill out anything besides like a basic addendum number 1 and a REPSI. Like,
right.
They don't know any of the clauses. They don't know what to do. And so it's such a crazy turnover. It's because they don't teach you anything you need to know. They teach you 90% of stuff you don't need to know. But that's a whole different story about real estate. But in going back to your questions, the principles in today's market, I think is a schedule, some sort of schedule. And I don't think it has to be the same as everybody else's.
Right.
I think that's another thing is, hey, you have kids, you have this, you got to drop them off. I think that you can make it work around priorities, but it has to have some type of organization.
It can be effective as long as it's consistent,
right? Yeah. So like, you know, for me, I stay with our kid every morning till 8:00.
Nice.
Our nanny gets there at 8, and then I go, and it's just something I enjoy because I know my evening schedule goes crazy.
And remind me your sweetheart's name.
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay.
Yep.
And she's in real estate as well, right?
She is.
Has she taken over your business yet? Because she's dynamic, dude. She's awesome.
She works. So she's Brazilian. So she
Right.
works the Brazilian Portuguese community in Utah mainly.
Cool.
Which is awesome. Like it's way bigger than I ever expected.
Right.
And yeah, she does good doing that. You know,
she's beautiful, by the way. Congratulations.
I agree. It's nice to marry up.
Yes, it is.
You're part of the club.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, so she's awesome. It's good to have support, right?
Our ex-wives are like, F, married up, what the?
Yeah, it all happens for a reason,
Yep.
right? So the crazy thing is, like with her, we just had the baby, 4 months old, and so it's a little crazy right now. So she's still working, but not. I mean, if somebody calls her, she'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's totally cool. Like, do what you want. Like,
isn't that really like the dream though?
Yeah.
Isn't that the dream of real estate, is be able to go, look, I want to be able to be with my baby till the nanny gets there.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to spend time with my wife and go on dates whenever we want. I want to be able to go to every baseball game and every dance recital and every whatever.
Yep.
But if you are consistent with your schedule, you can have all that, right?
Exactly. And in the last, being transparent, last couple of years, I was all over the place, and I still made a ton of money. Yeah. It like you could.
Right.
I have now since changed that,
right.
And I've actually been doing a lot more and focused on that. And you know, we'll probably get into the whole broker situation and transitioning out of that role in the last couple of months to focus more on the sales side of things.
Let's actually talk about that for a sec, because there's all kinds of different broker structures. There's a lot of new agents that listen to my podcast. Okay. So looking at it from that perspective, I believe if you're a brand new agent, what are some of the things that you need to have if you're brand new going in? Like you mentioned earlier, you think it's mandatory to have a team or be on a team. What are some other things that agents need to have if you're brand new?
Yeah. So number one is going to be the schedule, right?
Okay,
so let's go back to picking the brokerage.
Okay.
You need an environment that's going to push you and you feel good about. They could be great for somebody else, but you walk in and you don't feel good about it or you don't vibe with it. Just because it's good for Alma doesn't mean it's good for Johnny, right? Like that's the number
environment.
One thing. Environment is key. And what are you looking for, right? And a lot of times you're a new agent, you have no freaking clue what you're looking for. And that's why you're probably on YouTube listening to podcasts like this.
Right.
And so the environment and the people you're around is going to always outweigh any brand, in my opinion. But if you can get the environment, the right people, and the right brand behind you that believes in you, then all three of those come together, right?
Now, why is brand important?
You know, for me, I look at it, and if you want referrals and you want things of that sort, and you see other trends across the market, and you can collaborate and work together, there's a big part of that. You know,
and is it brand or is it branding that's important?
I don't know. I don't think the branding is really matters a whole lot.
Okay,
I think it's more the environment of who you're around that's going to make the difference. Like, I don't care. Yeah, we're national. We're all over the place, right?
Right.
We have almost 10,000 agents in U.S. and Canada, and
you're talking about real.
I'm talking about real
broker,
and that's fine. But I'm not going to go on a listing presentation and probably even bring that up unless I need to.
Right.
What I'm going to bring up is what I'm going to do to sell their house, right? And the energy I bring and skill set I bring and what value that brings. So I think some people get way too caught up in like brand of the company, not brand of themselves.
Exactly.
Because the brand
people are going to sign you up, not the company, right?
They're looking at you and how you carry yourself, the confidence you bring, the strategies you bring. It's your brand. What are you putting out there? Like you're the Clozer Cult, right? Like you're going to get known for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm Merrill Real Estate on my real estate side.
On the real estate side. So yeah, you're getting known for that on that side.
And,
yeah. So, people start to understand that, and it's not the brokerage you're with, it's who you are and what you're doing. And so I think there you have to separate those two. And going back to the environment, new agents, what they should look for is training, right? What type of training can I get? What type of team can I be on? What type of people can I be around? How can I get around people that are doing more than me that I can emulate? Rather, I can't be on their team. I might be able to go to mastermind groups that they're part of, or in speaking engagements they're part of, and just get involved.
What if I just want to go sell 2 homes a year for my family?
Yeah.
I mean, is the environment that big of a deal? Or just get a license, hang it? What I mean?
Yeah. If you're doing 2 deals, I think you just do whatever you want.
Right.
Put it wherever you want, whoever you know. And you still probably want to be.
I know that makes you sick to your stomach to think about that because you're such a high achiever.
Yeah, 2 deals a year would be like, is it even worth renewing your license at that point, right? Like whatever. But I still think you should be around somebody because if you're out of town, you saw obligation to your clients, so you probably need to know somebody
who can take care of your stuff for you.
2 deals a year, like whatever. You're probably not going to listen to this either, right? Like you're not looking to grow, you're not looking to achieve more, you're not looking for anything. You're just having your license. So
that makes a lot of sense. So let's just say, dude, I want to kick ass. I want to make this my entire full-time career. I want to break records. I want to be rookie of the year. Like this is my gig, man. Where do I go? What is environment? It's environment, schedule. What else?
Environment, schedule, and then skill set.
Okay.
Like I think those 3 are going to be huge. And then I think the next thing is the health, right? Like mental health and physical health.
Now, why is physical health so important?
You feel good. You have the energy to put up with it. It's not an easy thing to do. Like getting into the real estate it's not complicated, but it's not easy. If that makes sense. The principles are very basic, but it's still a challenge every day to get up and grind and be in the right mindset and get there and feeling good and go after it, because energy is everything on the phone and in person, right?
I think about like race car drivers, right? Back in the day, they were a bunch of lazy cusses and they all smoked and drank and partied, right?
Yep.
And then they would just go sit and steer the steering wheel, right?
Yep.
Then you had people come into the game and like a Danica Patrick, a woman, right?
Yep.
That came in and just absolutely worked these guys over. And it was because she had this rigorous physical and mental thing that she did every single day. And she surpassed everybody with her physical abilities.
Yeah.
And so how tied in is your mental to your physical?
It's crazy. I was at a mastermind this weekend in Phoenix, right? Had a guy come, John Madsen, huge trainer, played for the Raiders, runs a insane coaching group on physical, right? But after talking to him, I think it's probably 80% mental and 20% physical, even on his own coaching company that teaches health and fitness.
Right.
Because it's the belief to get there, right? And the desire to get there and figuring out why you're going to do that, why you're going to sacrifice. And so that's where I think you have to have the physical energy and the mental. It has to come combined, really, in my opinion, to do good in anything in life and stay consistent.
But Chris, I don't want to be I don't want to be a bodybuilder. Like, that's not it, right?
You don't have to have some rigorous workout. It's just doing something, right? Like getting up,
getting your blood flowing.
That's it. The business, if you're working hard, it will work. You're going to feel it, right? So if you can feel good before you get your day going or at night, like everybody's different. And that's another thing. Like I'm not one that says, oh, you have to work out at 4 a.m. Like, work out when you can be consistent with it and you enjoy it. Like, what is that to you? But what I do know in my life and my business, when I've been more active, my business has always done better.
Because there was a fat Chris at one time, right?
I mean,
because I know there was a fat Alma. I'm getting pretty close to that.
Yeah, because
it's
easy to
you've revolutionized your body too.
It's easy to gain weight. I can gain and lose weight really fast. So I'm kind of fortunate that way.
Yeah.
So I've been flow. But after this last weekend, I realized, looking back on where my fitness was and the years I was in the best shape were probably the best years that I'd done in business as well, right? And so it's very interesting to look at that.
Interesting.
And going, okay, yeah,
Yep.
that does make sense. And it was the self-reflection this weekend that I looked at that and go, shit, I need to do more, right?
Because if
And
you
so,
value yourself and you put more into yourself, you're going to value your business and everything else around you.
well, it
Right?
builds confidence. When you walk into a room, you have that, they
Mhm.
feel that. So I think that's where that physical comes from.
Mhm.
And then the mental is like believing in yourself, right? And this is the thing I tell new agents all the time is you've actually went to real estate school. Cause they always go, well, I don't know what to say. Like, what do I do? And
Right.
it's like, okay, you went to real estate school. So you've at least know more than they do because you did that.
Right.
Right. So if you're going into a listing or buyer presentation or whatever, you know more than they do already. So you have to have confidence that you already know more and that you have somebody you can reach out to get a question answered that you don't know. They don't know if it's something you should know or not. They might ask a question you have no clue. And if you haven't heard it yet, then it's probably not super common and they're not going to be turned off by you saying, you know what,
Let me find out. Yeah.
And I think that's the mindset of new agents, right? They get so worried about, hey, I have to know everything before I go sell homes.
Right.
Like the first listing presentation I went on was actually Dave Stocco.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah.
Wait, with Dave?
With Dave.
Oh,
He took
dude.
me.
Love Dave.
So yeah, it's just a crazy thing. Like he took me on a listing appointment, first one I ever did.
Uh-huh.
And then next thing you know, I'm competing against him on
Right.
other ones. And he was like, I wish I never took you,
Yeah.
you know, and we would compete for some reason we must have had a similar personality because we would compete all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Like you'd run into the same guys, right?
Totally. Because you're, and I think that's an interesting thing because yeah, like I used to run into Dave's, all the time on the road when we were competing against each other. He'd be walking out as I'm walking in and vice versa.
Yep.
And it was because we studied the same processes on the phone and got really similar results.
Yep.
Right. Because your thoughts lead to your emotions, your actions, your results.
And so it was really cool. He took me. I learned. I'm like, okay, that's all I do. Sweet, I can handle that. He taught me
Matthew
a couple
Flenders did that for me for the first
Really?
time. Yeah.
I've been on one with Matthew too.
Have you? Yeah. He's
yeah.
awesome, dude.
I
He wasn't even at my brokerage at that time, and he let me come with him.
Yeah,
it was so
he's
cool.
a cool dude. Matthew's awesome. I've actually hung out with him a ton over the years and haven't recently. I should.
Yeah.
But the key thing is, and it's funny that we're both talking about this, is we were both talking about how we pushed ourselves to go ask somebody to take me. Like,
Right.
I haven't had somebody ask me for a very long time to go on an appointment.
I think that's a terrible thing. I think they should be asking us like crazy, dude.
It's crazy. I remember like John Hunter, Ben Scribner, right?
Yep. Scribby, dude.
Yeah, he helped me probably more than anybody, actually.
Yeah. Then he started Flycraft Boats.
Yeah,
and the
he's
guy's
out of
probably
his fishing.
retired or
Yeah,
something.
he's doing really good. So what I did, there was like no teams back then. I remember, I think Justin Udy or Aaron Richardson might have had like a buyer's agent, and I don't even know what they called them.
Right.
But there was no teams. Like you were there.
Right.
Like, team wasn't a thing. Like
Yeah.
a team is a new thing.
It is. Yeah.
And so I'm like, shoot, I don't know anything. These guys seem to be doing really good, and they seem like I could get along with them. Like, so I went and found out what they're into, right?
Right.
And I realized they like snowboarding.
Mhm.
And they might. I don't know if I even told them this yet, but I go, shoot, I'll take them snowboarding. I can have a full day with them.
Right.
So then I go,
Add value to
you
their
know what?
life.
I know
right?
Powder Mountain really well. It's an hour away.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to take them to Powder Mountain, so we have an hour drive there, hour and a half drive there, so I can talk to them. And so that's actually how I started like becoming friends with them. I took them skiing because I knew they liked it. I took them an hour and a half away, so we had to be 3 hours in the car.
Right.
And coming back, like that built the relationship. After that, in that car ride, I asked them, hey, do you guys have any like people that you don't want to work with? And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? No, we want to work with everybody. I go, well, I know that you guys do this buyer acquire sign thing. It was right when it came out.
Right. I haven't heard
people
buyer
calling-
acquire for a
people
while.
well, they had all these leads they never called. Like they were busy, right? Like
Right.
they were cranking. So they had all these sign calls that called in, and they're like, well, we do have these that you can call if you want. Like, here, take them. Just give me a referral.
Right.
So like I pushed myself in my way and got there to start doing those.
Uh-huh.
And so it's just putting yourself in the right place at the right time and with the right people, right?
Right.
And so even back then I realized like I don't know what I don't know, but these guys are doing good, so I'm going to try to go see what I can bring value to them. And the value to them was taking them snowboarding.
Right.
It was awesome.
Right.
And I even, on that call, I remember going to pick up passes because my buddy had to hook up on passes in Ogden, so we had to go to his house.
Uh-huh.
I remember Ben calling a FSBO in the neighborhood. Like we're driving, and he's
We're driving by.
he called it on speakerphone, and the guy was such a jerk. It was like extremely bad.
Right.
Like we've called FSBOs a lot. Like I know it's good and bad now.
Right.
The dude was being such a jerk, and then Ben goes, "Oh wait, is your house the house that has that water foundation problem?" He's like, "Oh, I think that is your house, right?" And he's like, the guy loses his mind. What are you talking about? He's like, the Smiths told me that I had. So he's like, I'm like,
he's
this
BSing
guy is
this
being
guy,
an
right?
ass to him. And
Right.
Ben's over here laughing, like
Right.
the amount of rejection, like it did not bother him at all.
Yeah.
And that actually taught me, like, this guy's being such a jerk, and Ben's just like joking with him and does not care at all. I'm like, most people would have been freaked out, hung up, and he's like, just making light of it, right? I remember
having a good time,
always
man.
say is like, man, I'm gonna come out, and he's like, hey, you need to get a ticket to Hawaii. And he'd always say that. They're like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're gonna have to go pick up your socks there. I'm gonna knock them off when I show up. He would like always just say these like one-liners and have fun with it, but it worked. It was his personality. He's being what he was. So I learned a lot from those guys and being around them. But yeah, my advice is get in front of somebody that can teach you, that is wanting to help, right? Most successful people I know, especially in real estate, they want to help. The key is you need to make sure they actually know what they're doing, because over the years I found a lot of new agents feel like they want to help,
right,
but they haven't done anything yet. And
well,
so
and
I think that's a key indicator. You got to qualify it.
Right. And to new agents that are looking for a type of a mentor or something like this, a mentor should not necessarily be someone, in my opinion, that has been in the business for 30 years. It's somebody who's been cranking business.
Yeah.
You know, because there's some people who have been in the business for 30 years and done 30 deals. And there's some people that have been in the business for 1 year and do 30 deals a year.
Yeah.
Right. So finding a mentor is somebody who has a ton of experience in the current market. Right.
Exactly. Because trends change, objections change, markets change,
technologies
change, presentations have to evaluate, like change with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 100%, like find the right people, get in front of them, bring them value somehow. That's my opinion. Like if somebody brings you value and see something you need or something they can help you, you're naturally going to want to help them, right? Especially a brand new agent that has the energy that's excited about the business,
right?
Or in any sales.
Yeah.
Like I got friends that own all kinds of stuff, solar companies, whatever. It does not matter.
Right.
All sales are the same.
Right.
Bring value to the best person that you can get in front of.
Right.
And they're gonna help you. Like
now,
it's a win-win.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned technology has changed too, or we mentioned that. Why? I think based on what I've seen with Real Broker and why you and I changed over to that, the technologies are pretty critical there, right?
Yep.
Is Real a good place for a brand new agent as long as they find a good mentor?
Yeah. So the cool thing is they're building out like the agent coaching too for new agents. So they have a plan, right?
Okay.
Like they have a plan, but even with that plan,
and I'm literally inquiring of you because I just started. I know nothing about the company.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I know enough on that, I hope. But they do have new agent plan. They've launched. But even with that, I think that supplements an agent. Like I still think you need to be around somebody, either have a really good mentor that's going to take you on and say, yeah, you might not necessarily be on their team, but they're going to help you.
Right.
So I still think you should have that regardless.
Right.
Either somebody that's going to help you that's experienced, or you join a team. The whole thing with the team is people are like, well, I don't want to, split my commissions. My whole thing is that in 4 years, if you can do 30 deals that year versus 10,
right,
now you got 30 past clients. So when you leave that team, you got 30 people you sold versus 10. Now your database is bigger, right?
Right.
It's always so short-minded of the commission you paid now. Like they never think about, I sold them a $800,000 house this year. In 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they might buy a 1.5,
right,
or 1.2. Like that's
and then
when you start making the money.
Then they're your client.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so new agents don't understand that. And I get it. Like when you get your check and you're looking at it going, man, this guy's making this and that. And it's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have it without him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You
would only do X. So it's almost always you're going to do more. You're going to learn faster. You're going to get more confidence. You're going to have somebody else's track record.
Right.
And your database is going to be way bigger when you decide to go out on your own. So there's so many advantages to it. But as far as Real goes, what I do think they have amazing mastermind groups all over the country that everybody's invited to.
I've seen that, man. I've gotten those emails and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I did one yesterday. We did one yesterday, right? With Jared Fields, the Fields team in Utah County.
Who's freaking killing it.
I mean, they'll do 270, 280 deals. So they're doing okay.
Doing all right. Yeah. That's decent. That's decent.
But what I'm saying is they threw it out to everybody in the company. It wasn't just our team or the people that came in under us. It's like, no, anybody who wants to come. Right.
I grew up with Jared in California.
Oh, really?
We grew up in the same social group. And the funny thing is we kind of know each other, but we never really spent much time together.
Yeah.
But we already have that camaraderie and,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not connected with Jared at all in Real, like as far as like he didn't sponsor me or I didn't sponsor him.
Right.
But we just became friends through Real.
Right.
And so now we go to lunch all the time, talk all the time, do stuff together.
They
And
cross
that's the cool
line.
thing.
I love that about Real. They're crossing lines constantly. Like they're like, there's no lines.
Yeah.
We're all part of this together. We're all gonna help each other.
If there becomes a line, you become extinct.
Right.
Right. Like that's the whole thing. And the where that's important is people are there, they're doing business, they're willing to share. You can get everything they know. Like he had a panel of people from every brokerage yesterday,
Right.
all over the place. Just friends that are killing it in Utah that have been through a market change. And so I think that's the key is like, but then it's up to the agent to get like this was put out to everybody, every brokerage, every agent, and
doesn't matter the brand.
It doesn't matter, but it's the agents that have to show up.
Right.
It's up to them. Like they're not calling you. Like you need to actually take some initiative, look and go get it.
Right.
Like if you want something, you want it bad enough, you're going to find the training. You don't have to go spend a ton of money. You can get a lot of really good training nowadays just by attending conferences like this and finding mentors and meeting people.
Right.
And now you met this person and you know they had this thing going on and you a year later it pops in your head like, oh, I should call him. Like I know he's already done this.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like we do a mastermind on Tuesdays through Real that's across the country. Like and Canada, and you're learning what people are doing in Calgary. You're learning what people are doing in New York, California, like whatever, and they're open to sharing. So the cool thing is
now, why do I need to know that stuff?
Yeah. So, and it might not be too relevant to you now, but it will be eventually.
Right.
Right.
And it's also networking, right?
Yep.
For
you
referrals,
everything.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's all combined. Like the more people you get in front of, it doesn't mean if it's agents or buyers, sellers, public, it all helps.
Right.
So no matter what. And so that's the cool thing is you can mastermind now through Zoom everywhere. And so there's no reason like that you can't get trained and can't grow and have the discipline to do it, but it's up to the agent to log in and do it.
Right.
To show up to the meetings, to reach out, say, hey, is there anything coming up? Do you know of any trainings that would be good for me?
Right.
Like, I never get those calls.
You know, it's so funny, man. I go to like trainings at Keller Williams. I go to trainings at EXP. I go to training anywhere there's somebody that I feel like are really passionate and it's an open training, dude. I'll go. I just want to rub shoulders with amazing agents and spend time and learn from incredible people.
Yeah. It goes back to like, who are you taking your advice from? Right. If somebody that's been around for a while is putting on an event, they're not going to have somebody new come to speak unless that person that's new, they're saying, hey, this person's new and they're already doing this. Like, let's listen how they did it. Right. So maybe there is a caveat there, but that would be somebody speaking, not coaching and training somebody like or mentoring them yet. So yeah, I don't care where it's at. There's always good training. It's just up to that agent to get involved and take that initiative. And I think that's the number one thing is people want somebody else to do it for them. Right.
Right.
Like, hey, well, I didn't hear about it. I'm like, well, did you look?
Were you out there
I
searching?
had this yesterday.
Yeah, right.
I actually had a couple people hit me up like, hey, I didn't know about that event. And I said, well, it's been out there. Like it's posted. It's been emailed. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not calling you.
Right.
If you want to train and learn in today's market, figure it out.
Be
man.
assertive.
Like,
get on there.
Do your thing. Like it's so frustrating. I hate those type of calls.
You can find any of this shiz just on Facebook, right?
And it
like,
doesn't have to be at your brokerage. Like
right.
Every brokerage out there is teaching right now and training. And if they're not, it's scary. But I think most are because they know what's coming. And what's already here is you have to go back to the basics, have the principles, the skill set, the mindset, the energy to do good today. And so it's funny how, everybody's done it in their business. Almost everybody I know, like they're looking at their numbers, they're looking at their costs, they're evaluating and they're changing, they're adapting, they're getting more serious right now, or they're going to be gone. I mean, it's either you choose.
Right. How have you protected your mind as markets have changed?
Yeah. So, luckily we've been through this one time.
Yep.
Which I don't think this is going to be like that, but it's still a change, right?
Right.
And the hardest part is in the change to people understand that, okay, it's already changed. Like now it's here is the uncertainty that they have, right? So they're looking at you.
They're like, oh man, am I going to be able to pay my bills? I mean,
is it a good time to buy?
After Christmas is over, are we going to have any more money? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So deals right now are taking longer, even though there's a lot of houses on the market because the consumer confidence is down. And so I really think it's not a good time to buy for everybody. Like I don't believe that. What I do believe is if I sit down and know what they're trying to accomplish, then I can evaluate and give them the clarity on where to go with that. Right.
Like a game plan,
like strategize, like it's not one size fits all type of deal. Like this market is changing. Like if hey, I might get a job transfer in 6 months. It's like, okay, are you okay renting it? If not, then don't buy.
Right.
Like if you don't think you're going to be here a couple of years, you probably need to either be okay renting it and making sure it cash flows that way.
Right.
Losing money.
Right.
Or staying. I mean, like,
I mean,
it is what it is.
we came from a market where losing money on the sale of a property was very common. Like I remember, having clients that were losing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $100,000 more. And we're making that money in commissions and they're paying
you
that money
out of pocket.
out of pocket. Yeah.
It was crazy, you know, and a lot of those guys just, they had integrity, didn't want to do a short sale and just give it away. So they were bringing a lot of money. Yeah. It's, we're not going to, that's where I think we have so much equity in property right now. And so many are paid off in Utah. And I don't think we're going to see that. I do think that we've had a hit and who knows like how it's going to go. It seems like it's kind of stabilizing, but that can change tomorrow. Like the government, the media, the news can flip it and change. Right. So that's what's hard now versus before is it can change really fast.
How much do you pay attention to the government, the media, the news? Like, is it important to protect your mind? Just blow that shiz off, go live in your own world.
Well, I think you have to be educated to talk to clients because they're watching it. So if you don't have any knowledge of what's happening, that's a problem. And I think it depends on what you're watching too and how engaged you are. Like, yeah, you got to be up on it, but you don't need to spend hours on it.
So a basic understanding of the market, interest rates, economy, fluctuation, those types of things.
Exactly. Like you have to know the basics.
Because I know a lot of people are getting really caught up in war and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, until war happens, I'm not responding.
Yeah.
Like you can say whatever the F you want. War may or may not happen in our country or in other countries. I'm not responding until it does. I'm ready. I'm not responding until it does so that I can maintain my own state of mind.
And I think that comes back to the schedule, discipline, goals, figuring that out, what it's going to take, how to structure it, and focusing on that daily. Right. The news is the news. You're going to hear it no matter what. It's either from a news outlet, a friend, a social media. Like you're going to hear it. Like, the big stuff you're going to hear. It's just
they're going to tell you anyways.
Yeah. So I don't think it's like something that you're studying daily.
Right.
You do need to keep up on it. Like interest rates today, like what are they doing? Is it 50 basis points? Is it 0.75? Like people are going to want to know as I do the market. So those basic things.
Right.
I don't care about any of the other stuff. Like it's irrelevant to me and my family and what we're doing here to sell a house.
Right.
What I do know is real estate is always a good asset if you can hold it. Right.
Right.
And so that's the conversation I've had with people is like, hey, yeah, it might not make sense to sell your townhouse. Like I had this conversation that I'm working with a client right now. Went to go list their townhouse. They have, 2.6%.
But Chris, you're not going to make commission right now. I mean, you're showing a lot of integrity with this. I don't know if that makes sense for your pocketbook.
Exactly. Right. Like the short-term mind that a lot of people wouldn't have that.
Right.
And that's just way of life nowadays, I think. But what I found is if I can teach them how to leverage their townhouse that they're in.
With all that freaking equity.
They have savings to go buy a house anyways. And I'm like, well, we can do two things. One, we can buy a house with the basement apartment, which that's what they want to do. He read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and now he's ready to invest. But it's like, how do you strategize it? And they have some money and they're ready to go. And so I think you got to look at all those different foundations and what's best for them. Like, is it best to sell that townhouse or not? It was going to be because the rental cap was hit and the list was 8 years long. They said that's what they told him. They're like, but if you find somebody on the list that doesn't want her anymore, we can trade you out. So he actually went door knocking everybody on the list because he was that determined to rent it out.
Right.
He got somebody. They're good to go now. Like it worked out for him, but he took the initiative to go door knock a neighborhood to see if he could take over their spot on the rental list.
Right.
And so it's just crazy to see like there's always a way. And so like our strategy changed. Like, okay, now let's keep that. If you can do that, we can do a HELOC on this or refi if you need to pull money if you want to buy another rental. You already have the money for your down payment on a personal residence.
Right.
But I'm like, well, do you want a basement apartment? Does that bother you? No, that'd be awesome. So now that's what we're doing. So he'll keep his townhouse. He'll buy a single family, get the basement apartment. And now it's like, okay, we'll have those two. And we have a lot of equity in this one. What should we leverage this? And so that's like, now it went from, listing buy to multiple deals. Right.
Right.
And that's not going to be for everybody, but he wants to do more. And so it's always find out what does the client want and serve that. Right. And that's why
give them options. Give them options. And I always, if I'm a new agent, man, and I don't know all this stuff, man, I'll go to my broker. I'll go to other agents in my office. I'll go to my lender and ask them what they would do if they were in that situation for that client.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because in the long run, it is better to forego your commission or delay your commission and keep a great client that trusts you and loves you and knows you for the long run than it is to just turn and burn clients. Right.
Yeah. And that's where you get the referrals, right? Like, and I think we probably both were in that turn and burn
Oh,
early on
yeah.
in our careers
Mhm.
because I know how we ran our
Oh,
businesses.
dude, we were so
And
sloppy. It was
it's
crazy.
it was like
Yeah.
next FISBO, next call, next appointment, next listing.
Close
let's
it,
go.
go to the next one.
No
Yep.
relationship business.
None.
Like
Yep.
that's totally changed now. So now it's like build that relationship, build those referrals. This client, I know if the strategy works and they do it, I know it will work. They do what we're planning and what we have stuff set up. They're going to refer all their friends. Their friends are going to go like, what are you doing? I just did the same thing with another client last year, sold them 5 houses, younger couple. They're like 24.
Right.
They leverage it. Now they have 4 units in
Yeah.
1 year. Right. And so that's the other issue is just, you just got to be able to think outside the box, adapt, strategize, and see what's best for them.
Right.
And sometimes it's not to sell.
And
It's not
tell
like
them the
that's not
truth,
it. It's
right?
like
Yeah.
not to buy, not to sell.
Yeah.
you
Be
look at that-
truthful with them. Yeah.
It always comes back.
Yeah.
So, and that's like the same thing. Everybody's short-sighted, being on a team, short-sighted,
Mhm.
not the one to like push somebody to sell, short-sighted.
Right.
You have to do what's right, and it always comes back. It's just having integrity in life in general.
Yeah,
right?
we are, as much as we get compared to used car salesmen, we actually are not, because we're not turning one, non-appreciating item into a sale. We're turning an appreciating asset into a relationship
Yeah.
that eventually could repay you in 10 times fold, right? Tenfold.
In my opinion, it's always going to go up. It's just don't sell if you don't need to when it's down,
Right.
unless you're trading that money into a different property.
Right.
Right. That makes more sense for you. So that's like the caveat there is, yes, when the market goes down, you can still sell, but you better make sure you roll it into something else that's a better deal or better fit or whatever the case may be. So there's that. And then, like if we're just talking the real estate side of things and the overview is really just doing what's right daily and what's right. Like if you focus on little wins daily, you'll build your confidence, you'll build your knowledge. The only way you're really going to learn is to get out in front of people, right?
Right.
If you can screw up a listing appointment, great. The next time you'll learn from that.
Right.
The next time you'll learn from that. Like, don't think you need to know everything. You will screw
And
it
you've
up.
done a ton of role playing. Is the best role playing in front of real people?
It's always is, right? Like as much as you want to role play with somebody else and practice scripts and dialogues, which helps you get your tonalities and like just all the little nuances of closing down. That's great, but it's totally different when you get in front of somebody. But those skill sets subconsciously will transfer over to it. So I do think you need to make sure you're role playing and practicing being new, like no matter what. Like,
Right.
Figure out what lead source you're going after and focus on role playing.
Focus on it. Yeah.
And even if somebody else is focusing on a different one and you go back and forth, right? All the same things, the closing's the same, the words are different, but words are a very small percentage of what you actually say.
Right. It's
And
more
so
about how you say it or what,
how you say it,
and
the
what you say,
passion, the
right.
energy, the tonality, the rate of speed, like all those things, right?
I remember me and Stoko would play with that, right?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, let me show you how it's so important on how you say it versus what you say.
Yeah.
And we used to play the word game where we would like come up with
Throw
a
one
word.
in.
Yeah, like we
Yeah.
would throw whatever. Do you
Yeah.
remember doing that
Yeah.
with it?
Yeah.
And he's like, I remember one time he taught me how to do that, and then I threw in like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Something crazy.
And he was, and the seller was like passed right over it because it was how I said
Yeah.
it to them.
Yeah,
They were like, they didn't say like, what the F did you just say? Like it was how I said it,
And I think that's, you mentioned something there, is keeping it fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get burned out. You get the nose, you get this, you get that. But if you keep it fun,
Yeah.
it's so much more enjoyable.
And people like playful people,
Yeah.
they like enjoyable people. I always tell people, don't treat people on the phone like they're a business contact.
Yeah.
Treat them like they're a buddy. Treat them
Yeah.
like they're a friend,
Yeah.
That doesn't always mean you go off on these tangents about, oh, you ride Harleys, I ride Harleys too,
Yeah.
It's more about like building great rapport with them. So whatever you're talking about, if you can have good conversation, rapport is critical, right?
Yeah. Especially like when you're starting to compete on a bunch of deals and then you ask them why they listed with you versus the other people they met with.
Right.
Almost always is like, we just had a good feeling.
We
about you,
felt
man.
better.
Like,
Yep.
you just like,
Yeah.
felt like we could trust you. It's not like, oh, that one piece of marketing was amazing.
Right.
Like that might happen every once in a while, but I would say 95% of the time they say, there's just something about you I liked.
How often do you whip out marketing materials and say, this is what we do to market a property? Is it more that, or is it more building the relationship?
Probably 20% of the time that I have to
Okay.
go into detail.
Yeah.
If they're super analytical
Or
like,
whatever.
you
Yeah.
know what they do. Like they want to know those details. Most people, you lose them. Like
Right.
they expect you to be the professional and already do that stuff. Nowadays too, is they've already looked you up online.
Right.
They know who you are. Like,
Right. That's the thing with
you don't have to
technology these days. Yeah.
Show up. They already got an idea of who
Think
you
about
are.
this, guys, too. If you're new, Think about what you look like online. I'm
Yeah.
not saying go be somebody you're not. I'm saying, maybe take down the bachelor party pictures,
Unless that's your thing and that's your audience
Right.
that's into it, right?
Right.
Like you gotta know that.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you said, 3, 4 years ago, you might have done stuff you don't do today. So yeah, you might need to look at that.
And it
And
does matter, like, because that's the thing. It's like, are you being for them who they need you to be?
yeah,
Are you serving them in the highest way possible? For me, I see it that way. A lot of people are like, dude, I'm not being someone else. I'm like, no, I'm not telling you to be someone else. I'm telling you to be for them who they need you to be. It's the highest level of service. If you have a servant's heart, you're trying to be for them who they need you to be.
yeah,
And so maybe taking down the pictures or readjusting your social media or whatever, so that it's more versatile,
yeah.
will help you in your business.
I think so. I mean, I know people look you up. Like
Oh, for sure.
I do.
Immediately.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So be
Yeah.
yourself, show yourself how you want to be portrayed, and they're gonna take that from social before they meet you. So if you look like an idiot, you're gonna be treated like an idiot and get canceled on. So I mean, it's pretty basic concept, but
Right.
like some agent, if they are new, and a lot of new agents listen to this, they might not have thought that yet, right? So yeah, take a look at it, see what you look like. Should you rebrand, reimage yourself because you're somebody different now today than you were 3, 4, 5 years ago? I'm
Right.
different.
Oh,
So
totally.
it is what it is.
And how
Um,
important is it to work on yourself versus work
Yeah,
on your,
I've always had a coach,
yeah.
like mentor coach my whole career. I'm still in coaching and mastermind. I know you did one of these with Jimmy, and
Yep.
I'm in his mastermind group. We are the they. There's
Oh,
50
you're in
guys.
that group too?
Yeah,
Dude, that's such a freaking fantastic
Hey,
organization.
we were in Phoenix last weekend, jumping out of airplanes and paintballing and doing all kinds of crazy hikes and stuff. But we learned a lot too. It's not just having fun; it's getting uncomfortable, right?
Right.
Like I'll just say this: like one of the exercises he did that made me jumping out of the plane is for me is like it's fine,
Really
no big
fun,
deal.
yeah.
Jumping off the cliff in Moab on the rope swing like freaked people out like no other.
Everyone in
excited
that
about
group
that.
did it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. We had one guy that didn't out of 50. So
Oh, really?
and then
That's not bad odds.
Actually, I
That's
think
pretty
he's
good.
had only one out of
Yeah.
100 that didn't do it. So it's pretty good odds.
Right.
But like that to me was not. That was fun. Like I looked at that fun. But then
The rope swing, you looked at fun?
yeah,
That's
like the
that would be challenge. I've thought about that. I would do it. It would be a challenge. Yeah.
the swimming with sharks that we did in Bahamas.
Mhm.
That one was, I was a little worried until you jump in, and there's this like weird piece about it.
Uh-huh.
But before I jumped in,
Uh,
I was a little worried about that one.
right.
But this is what we did to get uncomfortable, because I think this is what you have to do. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And that's what
Right.
he teaches a lot of this stuff is your mind's more powerful than you think. Like you can do it. You can be uncomfortable. You can make it happen. So he did the scavenger hunt, right? We had 15 items on the list.
Uh-huh.
And it was stuff like do a TikTok dance in public, sing a Christmas carol like at a store, get the microphone at a grocery store and announce a sell, pay for somebody's groceries. There's 15 of them, right? Like be a mannequin in a store, like these crazy things. And we only had like an hour and a half to do it, and we had to video it
Right.
and share it with the group. So it wasn't like you just did it and left. Like, no, they're videoing this stuff, and that's where I got uncomfortable, right? Like the other stuff is fine, like whatever. This was like, okay, I'm on camera, I have to do this stuff. What is it? It's getting me out of my comfort zone. And then we did it. We had the best time. There's groups of 4. We did all 15. Like you had to do 2 each. We ended up doing the whole list, right?
Wow.
Like it was a crazy experience, and it was awesome because it got me out of my comfort zone for sure. But I was with another guy, a good friend of mine, Robert Mack, that's a big agent in Orange County, and he loves this type of stuff. Like this was like, oh yeah, this is no big
Pushing
deal.
the boundaries.
Like
yeah.
jumping off the cliff for him was, I think, a little
Right.
bit like it was different than this. And he's pretty, I don't know. I think most people are hesitant of that one too. But this was way more comfortable than any of the exercise we did. So I think you got to put yourself in a place that you're uncomfortable. Like if you're always comfortable, you're not growing.
All of your growth is outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. Right? And in this business, like going up to an Alma or going up to, there's thousands of good agents here in the state, like going up to them can be uncomfortable.
Right.
And it should be. If it's comfortable, you're probably not going up to the right person.
Right.
Like if you're not reaching out to the right people, like if something I focused on over the last couple of years was building my average sales price, right?
Right.
And when you start doing that and you start going up on sales price, you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, are they more educated? Are they this? Are they that? Like,
I used to be afraid of the high end homes, right?
yeah, I did too. I was nervous.
Totally.
Like, I'm young. Like, what are they going to think? Do I know this? Do I know that?
So funny because they're the easiest clients.
Yeah, and now it's like I move to a neighborhood and I look at my neighbors and go, oh, like there's nothing special about these guys, and that like selling those houses and building that confidence takes a while, but it was super uncomfortable. Like as you climb the purchase price, right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens to everybody. I've never met somebody that's climbed up on purchase price or did a higher deal than they've ever had or gone on the higher end listing appointment that wasn't nervous.
Right.
Like it's natural, but if you're not feeling that,
yeah,
you're not pushing.
It's so funny. I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I could care less. Like it doesn't change whether it's a $300,000, $200,000 or $2 million. It's all the same to me at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my easiest deal was a $6 million deal from a web lead.
Right.
That I didn't know that owns a big tech company.
$6 million, dude.
Yeah. And they bought it like I was buying a car. It was crazy, and that turned into multiple other deals as well. But that was like an online lead, but they don't work. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
where
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, where can people find you at if they're searching for you as a mentor or somebody, or even just to follow on YouTube, Facebook, whatever?
Yeah. Martindale 172 is my Instagram. That's probably the best place to reach out, or, Google. You'll find my information, I hope. So anyway.
Awesome, dude.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
I mean, I could just jaw it with you for hours, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure where this was going to go.
Yeah.
But it went where it went.
That's awesome, bro. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Clozer Cult. Hit us up on YouTube. Subscribe if you find it positive information for you that would be helpful. Thank you to Chris Martindale. And guys, we will see you on the next episode of Clozer Cult.